live on Sports Radio 102.9 FM The Game. It's time for Middays with Q. Now to your host, Rich Quinones.
Good afternoon, everyone. 12 o'clock straight up on the East Coast. It is indeed a Thursday edition of Middays with Q, coming at you live inside the friendly confines of the Sports Radio 102.9 FM studios in conjunction with Coastal Sports Network, and of course, powered by ION TV. I'm your host, as always, Rich Quinones. Mi hermano, Angel Martinez, behind the glass, keeping us on the air, as always. 2 hours to play with on this 18th of July already. Where does the time go? Get in on the conversation, bring something to the table. 727-858-6650. The engagement has been fantastic, and we have certainly enjoyed it, and we appreciate all the feedback from the viewers and the listeners out there. And if we want to say Facebook land, Storybook land, IG land, Twitter land, X land, it does not matter. You guys are chiming in YouTube as well. Rich Q on Q Broad Street South. Busy show today. We're hoping in about 10 minutes to hear from professional fighter Logan Holler, who is part of also TCL down in the Florida region, has a really interesting backstory. And I kind of like to highlight some of those athletes and fighters. And we're going to do a lot of that going forward. And she's just extremely charismatic, and we'll have a little fun with her. I want to get into also today's second half of the baseball season, Q's picks later on, brought to you by our good friends over at Play It Again Sports in Jersey and Deptford, New Jersey. And now, how about this? We're talking a little Bronny yesterday, and then he goes out and he balls a little bit. And can we just now take it for what it's worth and accept the fact? And I know it's painful for those out there to accept. I know it bothers some talking heads out there. I know it bothers the masses. But Caitlin Clark can flat out ball. She can flat out play. Sets the WNBA single game assist record last night. And listen, they lose. I get it. She had 19 dimes. She's unbelievable. And oh, by the way, $200 million broadcasting contract coming up for the WNBA. So we can sit, and you guys can hem and haw all you want and decide where you want to give the, or I guess you can say split up the accolades, right? Who does it go to? Who does it belong to? I understand it's a collective effort. But I can tell you this, like yesterday in passing, late last night, walk in Kiki, and I see some of my neighbors are out there, and they're sitting outside because it's a nice day, and they got little handheld, their iPhones and whatnot. And I was like, what are you guys doing? They're like, we're watching our girl, Caitlin Clark. Like, people watch. Like, this is where we're at right now. You have to start to acknowledge that it's okay if female athletes, it's okay if women's professional sports is starting to make headway and starting to dominate and starting to just make money and revenue and ratings and eyeballs. Like, just embrace it. Like, honestly, embrace it. What's the big deal? I mean, we're so, I just don't understand sometimes. I think we are so programmed where we don't want to give credit. We want to ignore certain things, and if we give credit, it's almost taken like it's a like a sign of weakness, which I think is absolutely absurd, to be quite honest. Look what she's doing for the game. Look what she's doing for the game. Look at the ratings. Look at the money that's coming on. Just just accept it and move on. And there's great players in the league. There's exceptional players in the league. There's enough to go around for everyone. But we should, sometimes when you have a person or athlete or athletes burst onto the scene, instead of always questioning it, right? Instead of always trying to analyze it, instead of always trying to break it down, why can't we just sit back and enjoy it? Why can't, as fans, we just say, this is good? I mean, the WNBA is about to get a $200 million per year, okay? 200 per year. And now all of a sudden, Union X are concerned, right? 200 million per year as part of the NBA's recently approved media rights deal. So it'll be an increase of around 140. But yet, again, some people are concerned. Now, you want to say they're being undervalued, that's fine. That's fine. You want to say they're being undervalued, I don't have a problem with that. So the WNBA's current media deal is valued right around $60 million per year. That's set to expire after the 2025 season. WNBA, which owns about 60%, the NBA, which owns about 60% of the WNBA, has negotiated new deals. But again, look at the eyeballs. People are watching. It is like must watch to some extent. We saw it the last 2 years in college basketball when LSU and I were going back and forth. We see it with Reese. We see it with Clark. We've seen it throughout, the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years. There's really good athletes out there. There's really good female athletes out there. And if they can, draw eyeballs and attention to the sport in a positive light and shed a positive light, embrace it. Stop hating on it. Who cares? Just accept it. Move on. There's strength in that, right? I mean, it's enjoyable to watch. Man, if you can flat out play, you can flat out play. Like, for instance, this weekend, I got a boatload of fights. I got Friday night in Sioux City. There's a card. I believe they have a couple female fights on the card. There's Saturday in Philly. There's Sunday in Philly with TCL. There's a bunch of female boxers on the card. Like, I just enjoy it. Like, if you're athletic and you go out there, you present yourself the right way, you got charisma, you're doing it the right way, you're putting in your time, your effort, your energy, be rewarded. And I enjoy calling when the females fight. I do. I enjoy why I think there's something to be said about that. And it's extremely entertaining. But good for Caitlin Clark and good for the WNBA. Get the money, get the revenue, get the eyeballs, get the broadcasting rights, get the broadcasting deals. And ultimately, when you sit back in 5, 6, 7, 8 years, you don't need to just say, because it's one person. Well, she has a lot to do with it. And then obviously there's other athletes involved, other players involved in this. It should be a collaborative effort. That's why I believe you never, kick a gift horse in the mouth, right? Where the bread is buttered, so to speak. You can use any of the superlatives. Doesn't matter, where to bring home the bacon, I don't care. Just get it right. Whatever the hell you guys want to use. So, all right, we're just starting to crank it up on a Thursday edition of Middays with Q right here on Sports Radio 102.9 FM. The Game, Southwest Florida's newest game in town. We are powered by Coastal Sports Network. And of course, on TV, download the app. You can view us too. Check out the website, sr1029thegame.com. We'll take an early break. We're hoping to hear from Logan Holler on the other side. Of course, you out there, 727-858-6650, 727-858-6650. You can text in, you can call. We're all plastered over social media on X, on YouTube, on Facebook, on LinkedIn. We're all over the place on our YouTube channels, respectively. So we encourage you guys to chime in, comment, get in on the conversation, let your voice be heard. We will take you up to 2 o'clock straight up on this Thursday in late July, the 18th, 2024.
Hi, folks. This is Gerard Moynihan of Moynihan Lumber, and I would like you to know that our company has been selling Anderson windows for over 60 years. See the complete line of Anderson windows at any of our 3 locations in North Reading, Beverly, or in Plastown, New Hampshire, or at MoynihanLumber.com.
Eye on Tampa Bay is the latest news, weather, and traffic for Pinellas, Pasco, Ellsboro, Hernando, and surrounding communities. Stay connected on X, Facebook, and their website, IonTB.com. Eye on Tampa Bay keeps you informed on breaking news as it happens. Southwest Florida's newest game in town. Sports Radio 102.9, the game powered by Eye on Tampa Bay. We'll be right back.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
This is the story of a very special woman. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician or an entrepreneur. Her knowledge was limitless and still is. She could also make monsters disappear, especially those that lurked in the shadows under the bed. Once, this woman put back together a teenage girl's broken heart, which had been shattered in 1,000 pieces, just by giving her a bear hug. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Download the Sports Radio 102.9 FM The Game app and tell your friends that Florida has a new leader in digital sports radio.
All right, 10 past 12 o'clock hour. I welcome you back inside a Thursday edition Middays with you. I can tell she's already getting ready to break with a smile and a grin. Rich Quinones here. We'll take you up to 2 o'clock straight up on this Thursday edition Middays with you on SR 102.9 FM. The Game, as I mentioned, we love talking combat sports. You guys have known this. We talk MMA. We'll talk kickboxing. Everyone knows my passion is boxing, calling the fights, having the privilege, and actually having to go back and realizing that I've called this young lady's several of her pro fights, but also part of Team Combat League, Logan Holler. Now, first, I have to ask you, because now it's hyphenated, because before it was just basically, Holler at your girl. Now we've got the hyphen with the last name attached to it because of the marriage. So how would you like to be officially introduced?
I still go by Logan Holler. I have it Silva on there. I got to get it legally changed. I haven't gone through that whole process yet. So Logan Holler's good. We got to keep the Holler in there.
Yeah, you don't need to run that by anyone, but congratulations on that first and foremost. And
thank you.
It's funny, when I was talking to you, and I didn't know that you suffered that injury, because I was looking, we've got the quarterfinals coming up in TCL, and I pulled it up, and I'll get to that in a moment. But let's talk a little bit about where you at right now. You're for the record, you're shut down for the playoffs for the rest of the season for TCL?
Yes. Yeah. My medical suspension is till August 14th or something. I don't know. It's the first time I've ever had a medical suspension. It's the first time I've ever gone down in my career too. So that was tough. But yeah, she hit me right on the left eardrum and popped it and took my equilibrium. So I was just really sad that I don't get to continue with the team. So.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, I think you're an exception. I think you're a hell of a fighter, but I think the veteran type of leadership that you kind of bring into play with the team. I mean, I saw it resonate even when we were down there in Orlando and Miami, calling the fights, back up in Philly. And I think sometimes when a team kind of loses that leader that has a little juice, a little feistiness, a little passion, sometimes it can hurt a team. Now, you basically switched sides, so to speak, down in Florida when you started with TCL.
Yeah, I was at Orlando, and long story short, they made a requirement that everybody had to live in Orlando. That wasn't the case when I first started, and it was just something logistically like I couldn't do. I'm down in South Florida, 4 hours away. I had a job, and it just logistically I wasn't gonna be able to move or financially afford to move to Orlando for 3-4 months.
Yeah.
So luckily, Miami had a team and my coach was friends with them. So I got to go on their team. So it was nice, but I loved the Orlando team. I really got to bond with them and do training camp with them. They're a great team. And it was crazy because the next fight we fought them. So it was
exactly.
Yeah,
Right.
it was a fun time.
Yeah. No. Listen, I've had the pleasure of calling a lot of the fights this year. I'll be back in Philly, Saturday for Danny Garcia's card, and then Sunday for TCL for the quarterfinals as a pro middleweight 9-3 and 1. Now you're originally from Carolina, and then
South Carolina. Yep.
How many amateur fights did you have?
I didn't have any.
Wow.
In South Carolina, you didn't have, you weren't required to have any to go pro. I know Florida, I think you're required. When I first started my career, I could never get matched at any of the amateur cards. I was a lot bigger. I was fighting, I think, at 180. I was a lot bigger. And it just wasn't big in South Carolina, North Carolina. MMA is a little bit bigger down there, or up there, I should say, since I'm in Florida. I just couldn't get matched. So my promoter at the time, was like, let's just turn you pro and just start really slow. So I've been learning on the job ever since. And that's, one reason why I was excited about TCL, because I was like, I lack experience. So the more time in the ring I can get, the better.
Yeah, that's a good point you bring up because a lot of times, and I mentioned this, right? We've seen over the last several years, and it's funny, I have to kind of chuckle to myself or with my contemporaries because I'm like, whoa, whoa. I was like, I was covering women's boxing, female boxing 10 plus years ago with
Yeah.
fighters, when the Alicia Napoleons, the Heather Hardys, the Melissa St. Villes, the Ronica Jeffries, when they were basically cutting their friggin' teeth and making their bones, right? So to speak. Like I
Yeah.
called Christina Cruz making those runs in the Golden Gloves in New York. And I've always had an affinity and appreciation for what you guys do and have done and will continue to do for the sport. But now you're really starting to see, right, the influx, the movement, if you will, when it comes to the female fight game. And I think that's kind of the uniqueness with TCL because it's tough enough to try to get fights, right? Now you have
Yeah.
an opportunity for 2 or in some cases 3-minute rounds, which we'll get into a moment, and bank a little money. Whereas maybe on local cards, depending upon where you are, as you mentioned in Florida, maybe you're only going to get 2 fights in 6 months, in 7 months, right?
Yeah. That's what I really liked about TCL too, is the experience, but also guaranteed fights every week. I was like even thinking about that mid-season. I was like, man, I don't want to go back to the grind of when's the next fight? When's the next fight? Because it's just, you get a fight finally. You have to find an opponent.
Yep.
I've had many of fights where the opponent's pulled out or we haven't found an opponent. So it's a hustle. So TCL was a nice break from that. It was difficult in the fact of the 1 round and the weight cut, but it was nice in the fact of consistency of fighting. And honestly, my favorite part of it was getting to meet all the people, like you mentioned, like Ronnie and Mel and Alicia. We fought, and I'm sad I don't get to see them because that's who Miami fights. They did a double header with us, and so I got to hang out with them, and we did Bible study in the hotel, and it was so great just to get to band together with other women.
Yeah, they all have a little juice to them, right? The
Yeah,
personality. I mean,
they're
I've
fun.
known Alicia for years. I actually, I joked with her. I called her very first professional fight in Gatineau,
Mhm.
Quebec. Yeah, it was a 14-hour nice little car drive. And then when she was up there, because of Brian Cohen, right, and what he's doing with the female fighters. And I said, "How are you feeling?" And I was like, "Can you at least give me some rounds, right?" And she went in there, and I think she got the girl out of there in like 30 something odd seconds, right,
I'm
for her
sure.
purdy,
Yeah.
right? And I'm thinking to myself, all right, I don't have too much filler here, but
Yeah.
it was fun to watch. Again, Logan Holler, Dash, I like to say hyphenated Silva, kind enough to
Oh
join
no,
there.
you're fine. You're fine.
Well, hold on a second. If the husband's listening, he's probably thinking, so wait a second, 50-50 down the line here.
Yeah, no, he's fine. He's good. He's good.
But I always appreciate a couple months. I did really enjoy interviewing you because when we were down in Florida and TCL was like, start picking out some fighters and get the backstories. And I mentioned this, a lot of the fighters fight. They have certain inspirations or certain driving forces, right? I mean, some fighters might be fighting for their kids or fighting for cancer or fighting, one of the fighters is fighting for one of his countries. Everyone
Yeah.
has, something that's driving them. You're fighting and continue to fight for mental illness and just the awareness of mental illness and just to be in that great mental state, get your mind right. Can you talk a little bit about that for a moment?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, I feel like that's like a loaded conversation because I can go on about this forever, but I honestly have dealt with mental health issues. When I look back, I can see it starting in middle school, just the way my mind worked was very different. But mental health wasn't talked about. I mean, I'm 32, so in middle school and high school, mental health was still not talked about the way it is now. So even talking to my parents about it, they didn't really understand when I really started speaking up in high school and college. And I got into boxing out of college because, like I said, I wanted kind of a mental outlet, something to, help with aggression and temper and just help me to be stronger and more confident in myself. I was diagnosed with depression in college and, been trying different things over the years, therapy, medicine, and boxing was something that I feel like God led me to that really, really helped me. It did become a double-edged sword though, because as an athlete my whole life, there's a lot that comes with being an athlete and comes with trying to be perfect and the pressure and winning. And there's also, that side that comes with it. So it's been a little tough in that aspect, because also a sport that you love becomes business, and business takes the love out of it a little bit. That happened with me. I grew up riding horses my whole life, and I rode for University of South Carolina. And just like they say, when you get to college or you get to NFL or anything like that, a lot of it becomes a business and it takes the love out of it. And that's kind of where I've been with boxing lately, which has been a struggle. But yeah, I'm a suicide survivor. I've had, long story short, a lot of dark times over the years, but, I'm a Christian and I've had faith in God, and I know He's kept me around for a reason. And I know, that's why I've been more open about talking about it. It's the first thing I'll talk about. I used to be embarrassed because, it was taboo to talk about mental health. But if I could just help, I know everybody says this, but if I could just help one person to let them know they're not alone, and that the things that I deal with and the stories that I tell and the situations that I've been through, if that can help somebody, like, I'm doing my job, like I'm using the platform God gave me to help with mental health. It's still a daily struggle. I will deal with it my whole life. And I have things in place. I have a great therapist, a sports therapist, Anne, who's been great. I've been on medicine for years. But it's a roller coaster. Like I said, it's something that I'll deal with my whole life. I used to think that I want to beat this, I want to cure it, but mental health is something you'll always deal with, and everybody does in some aspect. But I'm just glad that it's being, like with Simone Biles and stuff like that. I'm glad that athletes are speaking out, because it is the case of, you have a physical injury, you're out for 2 to 3 weeks. People don't understand that a mental injury is, it's the same, and it can lead to a lot of destruction. I've seen it. So like I said, I could go on about this forever.
No,
All the things I've been through.
A couple points that you bring up, and I mentioned it the other day on my show. I said, I think sometimes there are athletes out there where they don't want to be accountable for their actions. And I have a problem with them going that route, using that as a crutch, to be quite honest. Like, there's a point where, like, we've had family and friends, and Not Bland chimes in. I was like that too. Want to talk about it. Suffered in silence for years. I deal with it my whole life as well. Thanks for sharing. And no, it's fantastic stuff that you're giving us. But I don't, we've all had rock bottom moments, right? When people are like, you're not depressed. Well, you can't really tell me how I feel, right?
Yeah.
Well, you're still functioning, you're getting up, you're working out, you're going to work. That doesn't matter. They don't know what falls into our mind in the beginning of the morning, right? During the day, during the night. And for you, and again, if you want it, it's your floor right now. When was that point where you kind of hit that point and you're like, okay, I guess if I think of someone who wanted to take it to that step where this is it, I have no out. The pain is just too much.
Yeah.
If it's too hurtful to bring up,
I can.
When did that point that, that it just that?
I'm an open book. There is such thing as functional repression. So that's why people say, like, check on your strong friend. You may never know what someone's going through, what they're feeling, especially men. Men, the highest suicide rate is men. And they're taught, at least, coming from my Southern background in South Carolina, the men were taught to be strong, take care of the women, and be quiet about their feelings. My dad was 85 when he passed, so he had me at a lot later age. And that was very much his generation. When we talked about mental health, he was very, as a man, like, we don't talk about that. We don't, we put on a strong face. And I think that's so hard. For me, I try to be very self-aware. So I know, like, when a storm is coming, or when I can feel something on the horizon. I think the first time I really, I've actually, 2 times in my life I've really attempted, and was really set out for doing that. For me, it was I never was a planner, like plan ahead. For me, it was a very spur of the moment. Like I just, like you said, it's not that we don't want to be alive. It's that we just want the pain to stop. You know, I want to live. I want to be happy. I want to enjoy life. I want to, all of that, but the pain just gets so great. For me, the first time was after COVID. I lived in Florida by myself. All my family's in South Carolina. I won't go into exactly the situations, but I had a couple things happen to me in boxing, in other areas of life, but boxing too, and a couple people that I really cared for and loved really, really hurt me, I guess. And I think a lot of things just snowballed together. And for me, it was a very quick, like it was a morning. It was very on the spot. Like I'm done. I can't do this. I obviously wasn't successful, and I immediately called my mom in South Carolina and was like, I can't do this anymore. I don't know what to do. And my mom and dad are great. And she flew out, and we just went through, getting a therapist. And I wasn't on medicine at the time, and I never wanted to try medicine. And I never I'm not a doctor. So, whatever works for you, works for you. Some people don't use medicine, some do. I was always scared to use medicine because I didn't ever want to rely on anything. And I was scared that if the medicine didn't work, that was my last chance. Like that was the last thing. And if that didn't work, like I was going to live with this. And one day I was going to be gone. So for me, I don't know if that kind of answers your questions, but for me, it's kind of like a really, really, really high panic attack, like times a million, to where I just can't, I don't know. It's just like you kind of black out. For me, like I kind of blacked out, and I was like, this is it. Like I'm done. And that was the second time that it happened. That was the same kind of thing. There were some situations that happened external that fed into the internal mind. And it was a quick decision, and I was just like, I'm done. I can't do it anymore. Without like going into too much detail, I don't know if that answers your question. I know everybody's a little different, but our minds also work very different. It's something I've had to talk to my husband about a lot too, because he didn't really understand it, and he's done a good job since we've been married of understanding mental health and knowing what he needs to do as a partner. And it's very hard because he knows my mind works very different. But a lot of it is I can't control a lot of the thoughts in my head. I can't control my mind. I can't control my emotions. And I've always said there's like two Logans. There's the Logan that's good and knows how good life is and the plans God has for me. And then there's, as a Christian, there's, the devil that's like, you're worthless. You're nothing. You're not enough. The world doesn't need you. And unfortunately, that negative voice wins a lot of the time, so that's kind of the gist. But like you said, it's not that we don't want to be unalived anymore. We just want the pain to stop. And sometimes it's just too overwhelming.
No, it's very deep stuff. I want you to stay with us. I know we're at 12:30. We got to hit a quick timeout, but stay with us on the other side. I want to continue the conversation on Thursday edition of Middays with Q. Rich Quinones here. Logan Holler, kind enough to join us.
Hi, folks. This is Gerard Moynihan of Moynihan Lumber, and I would like you to know that our company has been selling Andersen windows for over 60 years. See the complete line of Andersen windows at any of our 3 locations in North Reading, Beverly, or in Plastown, New Hampshire, or at MoynihanLumber.com.
Hey, Dad, your prescription will be ready in just a minute. Hey, Dad, your laundry will be ready in just a minute. Dad, your lunch will be ready in just a minute.
Hey, honey. Why don't you take a minute?
When you help care for a loved one, you give them as much time as you can, making sure they're safe and comfortable. But it's just as important that you take some time for yourself. At AARP, we can help with information and useful tips on how you can maintain a healthy life balance, care for your own physical and mental well-being, and manage the challenges of caring for a loved one. Because the better care you take of yourself, the better care you can provide for your loved one.
Thanks, Dad.
Thank you.
You're there for them. We're here for you. Find free care guides to support you and your loved one at aarp.org/caregiving. That's aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
All right, class. Let's hear what everyone did this weekend. Jill?
Well, I raised my older sister to a big oak tree. It was at least 100 years old. My mom said I must have set a record or something. And then we went down by a stream and perched up on this huge rock and saw all of these little minnows swimming around way below us. And then I rescued my little brother from an evil slug king who was guarding him at the bush fortress. And my sister and I brought him back to our super twig fort for safety. And then we all laid out and told stories until it got dark. And the Big Dipper led us all the way home.
Awesome. Where were you, Jill?
Yeah. We went to the forest. It's not that far away. Anyone want to come this weekend?
Ask your parents to take you and your friends to the forest this week and find the fun, adventurous you. It's closer than you think. Check out discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Middays with Q. Here's Q.
All right, welcome back, everyone. 35 past the 12 o'clock hour on the East Coast. Rich Quinones here. Logan Holler, kind enough to join us, and really some very deep stuff. Not so bland. Not bland. I keep saying not so bland. It's not bland. I mean, maybe when you put you don't put salt on your steak, it's not so bland. But chimes in, and we appreciate the text. That's great to have the support. Still here because my wife had friends that saw me spiraling out of control and watched me crash and burn. And I think a couple things that I was jotting down when you were talking. I look at a couple things, like with men, right? Depending upon the background or how we're raised or the cultural or the ethnicity or where it is taboo. Like we don't want to show that sign of weakness, right? But sometimes you just get to a point where you're just like, all I need is someone to talk to, or I need a hug, or I need someone to say, "You okay? Is there something I can do for you?" And I think sometimes, being a female, obviously I can't speak to that, but I also think there's men, we have the ego. And I think sometimes with the female, maybe it strikes you guys as perhaps a sign of a weakness, or the ego comes into play where you're like, hey, I'm tough enough. I'll just deal with it. But man, when you get to that point and you realize I need people to talk to, you have to surround yourself, not with just people, but the right people, the people that are going to give you a hand up. They're going to lift you up. They're not going to keep you down. And it sounds as though you are doing that. You've done that. The boxing, the outlet, I don't know how many fighters have told me it's an outlet. It's an outlet, right? It keeps me off the street. Yeah, it keeps me out of the gutter. It keeps me out of jail. It keeps me off the corner. I can now punch someone and get paid to do it. And, Angel, our CEO, texted me a great question. He was wondering if it, the battling that and trying to thrive through it, has it ever affected you prior to a fight, leading up to a fight, training for a fight? Can you separate the two, or sometimes do the nerves, the anxiety, does it start to come into play?
No, it affects me a lot. That's honestly the past couple of years what I've really been struggling with. I've had a rough couple years in my career lately, and my main goal was to kind of conquer my mental health when it came to the ring. I really struggle with it in the ring. And that's, again, one reason why I was excited about TCL, to get some more experience, to get in the ring. The 1 round thing is tougher than people think. I'm not a 1 round fighter. I usually don't even do great in my first round of sparring and fighting. So I was excited to get in there and try to work on that. But yeah, that's honestly a great question, because it's where I'm at right now. I'm very mentally burnt out. I'm in a good place. I'm healthy. I'm not in a negative, dark place, but with boxing, I'm very mentally burnt out. Because I've been trying for the past couple of years to really conquer that confidence and those voices in my head. Because like I said, I get more nervous before a fight, not because of the fight, but because I don't know what Logan is going to show up. I don't know if it's the Logan that sparred really well the other day, or if it's the Logan who thinks that she doesn't belong and she's not good enough and shouldn't be here. And I noticed, throughout TCL, there were some rounds where I felt like, oh, I'm conquering this, I'm doing it. Then there were some rounds where it was like, oh, that mental struggle's back. So yeah, it's very prevalent right now. And it's kind of gotten to the point of, I'm at a crossroads right now of what I want to do, just because my mental health is struggling when it comes more to boxing. I've got a better grasp on it on life
Right.
and everything, but that's always been my biggest struggle in the ring is confidence and trusting myself and knowing I have the ability. I have an amazing trainer, Derek Santos, up in Boca Raton. I love him. And I have great people, like you said, I have great people around me. I have Maureen Shea, who was a veteran, who was a world champion.
$1 million baby. Yeah.
Yeah. She actually is the one who helped me move to Florida. She's been amazing. And having people like Alicia, like we talked about. And that's something I always tell people too, if they ever ask me, what's the best advice you can get for mental health? And I was like, find one person. All you need is one person that you can talk to freely about how you feel. And if that's a therapist, then that's a therapist. And you have to date your therapist, right? You have to find the one that works for you. But having just one person that you can talk to is the best thing. But yeah, boxing's been a struggle lately. And that was that was another reason why I really wanted to get into TCL, because I was like, okay, it's one round. I can compartmentalize. Like, let's get our confidence back. Because like I said, the past couple of years have been, ever since my dad passed away, it's been a struggle in the ring. So.
No, listen, I get it wholeheartedly. I totally understand where you're coming from with that, right? And let me actually peel back the curtain. Let me put your mind at ease a little bit. Every time I crack on the mic or I'm ready to call the fights, I think to myself pretty much the same thing, right? What Rich Quinones is showing up? Is it the guy that loves the sport and knows what he's talking about? Or am I going to fumble? Are they going to think I'm a fraud? Am I going to get exposed because I don't know what the hell I'm doing behind the mic? I don't know how to call a fight. And I will tell you this, you have that moment where you start to breathe a little heavy, right? I mean, for me, for some reason, once the fight starts, I'm fine.
Yeah.
And people have said this, fighters have said this to me. They're like, Q, why do you always pace, prior to, right? Or you're walking around with your notes and you're talking to yourself. That's me trying to get my mind right.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, here's the scene. We're in the 2300 Arena, famed South Philadelphia. Bring your lunch tail to work. I can't friggin' flub this opening. I can't flub it. We're live. Here we go. Over and over and over. And you start to feel the sweat. You start to have your handshake. You're not ready. Let's do it again. I mean, there were times I'm literally telling the director, no, I'm not ready. No. 3, 2, 1. So I know exactly that feeling. It's a horrible feeling.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, my friend, once you get settled in and you're in your world, that's when you know, hey, I'm meant to do this. Yeah. I look across the ring. She doesn't stand a chance, right?
Yeah.
2 minutes, 3 minutes. I'm going to do my best. So I get where that's coming from. And you're right, to compartmentalize is so hard to do. I mean, I can't imagine, right? Think about this. You got 2 minute, 3 minute rounds, and I believe they should be 3 minutes. That's just me. But, you got your teammates sitting there ringside cheering you on. You're trying to figure out what you're doing. You got your game plan. You only have one round, right? You got one round to get it done. You can't sit there and give up a friggin' round and 4 rounds, 6 rounds, chess match. I'll feel her out. You got to let your hands go. It's a lot going on.
Yeah. And that's what I feel like it's so tough, because it's like, most people the first round, they're feeling them out, and that's kind of how I am. Like I said, my first round of sparring, my first round in fights, like I probably never win them. I'm not that good at them. But then once I'm warmed up and in my groove, and I'm so used to like, okay, we have a game plan. We go in for the first round. It doesn't work out. All right, we come to the corner. Derek tells me what I need to change, and we change it. But in TCL, you need to figure that out. Rashad, one of the coaches for Orlando, who I love, he was like, you got to figure that out in the first half, the minute 30 seconds. And I don't think I'm at the experience enough to switch that quickly. And that, again, that's why I'm learning on the job. I noticed that I would have a game plan and kind of stick to it for the whole round, versus like, okay, this isn't working in the first minute, let's change it up. But also, I saw people go out there and just swing for the fences. And I was like, I don't want to do that either, because when I'm done with TCL, like, I don't want to create those habits,
Good point.
So yeah, you want to be aggressive, but I still want to keep my good form and technique and not just, I could go out there and just be an animal, but that's not going to help me in the long run, So it definitely, it's tough. It's tougher than people think. Like yeah. For me, the toughest part for me though was oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it's a crazy phonetical pace, man. I mean,
yeah,
I even joke sometimes. I'm like, why am I even like prepping for this stuff when it's 3 rounds? I can't even get. You try to get into somebody's backstory, and then the round ends.
And then it's done. Like just some of the knockdowns we saw this year were just
insane.
It was crazy. It was fun. I love the team aspect. That part was really cool.
They had a brawl last night in Boston.
Oh yeah, how did I didn't watch? Like an outside the ring brawl?
No, the fighters all of a sudden they got into a brouhaha during one of the fights. I'm like, what?
Who won last night?
Orlando lost.
Oh no!
Orlando lost by a couple points. I think in the finals, and I pulled it up. The way it shapes out, because it was a very fast season. You have New York versus Miami, Philly versus LA. Those are your quarterfinals. Then you have the semifinals, the 27th in Philly, and then you have the final August 1st. But every fight that I've called, every matchup this year has been extremely tightly contested, right? And then that's why you get to those money rounds if you have an opportunity to fight. And I do like the fact that if you do get knocked down, or you're knocked down several times or knocked out, obviously you're not available. I mean, fighter safety at the end of the day. But let me ask you, as a female fighter, you're open to 3-minute rounds?
Oh yeah, I know some people aren't and some people are. We train 3 minutes on the bag and mitt work. We spar 2 minutes just because to get used to that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
I don't have an opinion either or. I will say the one thing I like about 2-minute rounds is it's more exciting.
Yep.
And the women push harder. It'll definitely make it different fights if it comes to 3 minutes. So that is the only thing I like about the 2 minutes when I'm watching women. No matter if it's someone I don't know, I'm like, this is going to be exciting. They're going to push the pace, and it's fun to watch because the women know, and the women also know they have something to prove. Always, we feel like we always have something to prove. So I'm okay if it goes either way. Just tell me what to train for, and we'll train for it. That I will say that third minute is long though. When you're so used to 2.
Sure.
That third minute, you're like, dang, that's a long minute.
100%. I mean, it's like that separation, that difference from 4 and 6 rounds. Do you follow any other sports?
Yeah, I'm a Green Bay Packers fan.
Okay.
My whole family, we grew up Green Bay Packers fans, and Gamecock SEC football.
Okay.
My husband
WNBA?
Huh?
WNBA. Have you been watching all the Caitlin?
I have, yeah, all the Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and everything. I don't have like a player or anything that like I watch, but Asia Wilson. I do like Asia Wilson. She came from USC, so and we got Dawn Staley, who's absolutely amazing. I got to meet her when I was on the equestrian team at USC, and she's just an amazing human being. But I love seeing Asia Wilson, and Asia Wilson's also from my town. She grew up in Columbia, South Carolina, where I grew up, and went to a private school. That was actually my rival high school. So it was cool to see someone local really like just killing it. But my husband loves UFC.
Okay.
So we host fight night at our house.
Nice.
And I don't know if he'll get mad at me for saying this, but him and his friends, they do like a pool and they put in who they're going to win. And they have like a fight night title belt that like whoever wins for the night gets to take it home. I think I have it.
Are we going to see the belt? Uh-oh.
Yeah, he's going to kill me for this, but this is their belt.
Wow, that's pretty sharp. Hey, listen.
Yeah, and like whoever wins that night gets to take it home. And like they're funny. They like joke around and do like promos and stuff, but they love UFC.
And you said you grew up riding horses.
Yeah. So yeah, I've been riding horses since I was 4, and then got a scholarship and rode for, a lot of people don't know that it's an NCAA sport, and I rode for University of South Carolina.
Wow. So I guess when the Preakness, the Kentucky Derby, and the Belmont come on, you are going to be our official horse racing handicap.
that's very different from what I do though. But
I don't care. Do your research. Do
Yeah,
your
yeah,
research.
no.
Let's
I can
talk it.
help
Let's
you with the
bank some
horse.
money. Do your research. Listen, I know I got to let you get out of here. If you can convey or share one message for those out there who might be watching, tuning in, or will be watching on demand, and they're like, you know what, I'm in the same boat. What would be the message you'd want to convey and share to them?
Man, that's a tough one because I just want to give him a hug, because I know that pain and I know that darkness, and it's very, very hard to get out of. Obviously for me as a Christian, like I'm able to lean on God. But like I said, find an outlet, find something that's going to help you, whether it's journaling, whether it's a sport, whether it's an activity, and have that one person. If it's one person you can get, like I'm lucky that I have my family, that's very helpful. But through it all, and like looking back at everything I've been through, I can honestly say, even the times I didn't believe this, life is beautiful. And it's hard. It's tough. It literally is the Rocky Balboa speech that he gave, where life is going to knock you down. That is true. It ain't easy, but it can be beautiful, and you have a purpose. That's the main thing, is find your purpose. Because God has a purpose for you. You may not know where it is yet, and you may, even at a young age, you may not know. I feel like I still have more purpose to find I'm about to be 33. But just find your purpose and find what you love, and just don't quit on yourself, because you're worth it. You're enough, and you got to say that over and over again to really, really believe it. And every day is going to be different. Some days are harder than others, but that's, like Rocky said, that's life. So
Yes, that's everyone goes through it, right? Day by
Yeah.
day, second by second, minute by minute, hour by hour. And then social media. I know you post some good stuff on social. If you want to promote anything, you want to promote your own accounts as well. Go ahead.
No, yeah, promoting TCL. I'm surprised you didn't ask me who you thought was going to win the whole thing. I was going to
I
say
didn't,
Miami.
but that. Listen, hold on a second. I wanted to tell your story. Now, are you going to give me an objective answer?
No.
Well, that's what. Then I already knew that already.
Okay,
But
so
go
let
ahead.
me
hold
let me
on
say
a
this.
second. Who's going to win it all?
Miami.
But what about Philadelphia? They're stacked.
So is Miami.
Listen, I have an affinity and appreciation. I'm getting hammered, by the way. I'm getting text messages from some of the male fighters. They're like, really? Where's our love? I'm like, what? Back off. I got my girl Logan on. So you know what? They can back off. They're tuning in. I'll get those clowns on in a little bit.
Philly is great. And we played Philly. They're a great team. Are they Miami plays New York. Does Miami, if Miami were to beat New York, well, New York's a great team too. Every team that we played is good. Like,
I think Miami beats New York, but here's the thing. I think Miami has to get through the middle rounds, have a good lead for the money rounds, and they have a little wiggle room. I think Philadelphia, I don't want to say they're going to smoke Vegas, because I know right now Vegas fighters are watching this as we speak, and they're going to hammer me on Sunday when I see them to call the fight.
Everybody's a great team. Just say that.
But
well, I don't want to get you. I don't want to get you in trouble.
I have to have the check clear, right? Come Monday.
Yeah, I don't want to get you in trouble.
You're not going to get me in trouble. You already sat there and said, "Hey, I'm surprised you didn't ask me who's going to." You're not going to get me. It's my.
Well, that's what I was like. That's what I was getting ready for today. I was like, okay, let me go through my
story. Your story. Listen.
No, I like that. I love talking about it, and I'm always here to talk about it. I'll just say this: I pray that everybody comes out healthy and safe. That's what matters. No issues.
It got a little iffy and dicey early on in the season, and it was. Yeah. I was there. It was. I was there ringside, and it was. It's tough.
I've seen some knockdowns. Some of the knockdowns I've seen have been brutal. Scary. Like I had never seen that in person, to be honest. Like mine was like I got hit, and then all of a sudden I went down. But my equilibrium was gone because it busted my eardrum, and I got up and I was fine. I was actually mad because I got up and then I went down again. I think I tripped, but they say it was a knockdown, and you have the 2 knockdown rule. And I was like, no, I want to keep going.
But that protects the fighter. And to your point, that's what, like,
I was concussed, so
you can't go on.
Yeah, but as a fighter, you're like,
of course you do. It's the ego. But I'll tell you this: the way Philly lays it out, and and being a New York guy, it pains me to even say this, but the way Philly lays it out, the money rounds when they've got Albright and they've got DeWetchko and they've got Rob, they got the veterans guy, the heavy. It just almost sets up where you really have to have a big lead, right? Because what happens is, if I'm out there and I'm like, hey man, I got to play catch up and try to go for the knockout and get the points, and all of a sudden I get caught. Now you're putting your team in trouble. That's why it is a team concept. You have to fight unselfish.
Yeah. And I feel like Philly, they've had a lot of fights. So I feel like their experience is very high. I feel like Vegas didn't have as many fights, which I think gives you the edge. The more fights, the more groove you are with your team. So I think it's going to be really, really interesting. All the teams that are in it are great. I was pulling for Orlando to win. Just, bias again. But
listen, Chino's a great guy. I mean, Chino Rivas, it's a very good team. Miami's a very good team, talented team, stacked. And I say this, and I do get in trouble for saying this on the air, but even though the fights are in the 2300 Arena in Philadelphia, you have to get a lead, man. You cannot leave anything up to chance. It's just how it is. People don't like when I say it. I say it on the local circuit.
No, it's true.
Right?
It's true. And no, you're right. So I'm excited. It's all Sunday, right?
Yeah, so it will be Sunday. We're looking at a 3 p.m. start, and then it's a double dip, 3 p.m. and then 5:30, and then typically, we'll broadcast on YouTube the launch rounds for free, and then you have to go to the, I don't know if they give you guys access. You might have to pay for it.
No, I paid for like this,
right.
like yeah.
Go. What do you got, Angel? Go ahead, Angel. Go ahead.
All right. Logan, first of all, thanks for coming on the show. Thank you for sharing your story. I can relate back in 2017. I'll have to tell you about that another time. But I wanted to ask a quick question because as a boxer, and you talked about because of when you're getting ready to go to the ring, you're training, right? It can develop either having a good day, bad day. I'm wondering and the only reason why I kind of thought about this, when we were at Radio Row in Vegas in February, we had a power slap champion that came to speak to us. And what she had mentioned was she had gone through depression because of her husband. Her husband really had brought her world down, was very abusive. And she didn't know where to turn to and where to go. And then the one day someone said, why don't you just slap him? And she said, if he was in front of me, I actually would. And then someone else had heard her say that. And they said, well, why don't you come down to Florida and we'll teach you how to slap somebody. So it was kind of like a makeshift room where you just go in and you talk to people, stuff like that. Well, come to find out there was an actual power slap when it first kind of kicked off. And they said, listen, I think you should train to be an athlete. She says, I've never trained before. What do I know? She says, yeah, but you have all this anger and rage and stuff built inside of you, which she said she didn't, but the guy was trying to bring everything that she had experienced. So she said the first time she stepped into the ring, the first hit that she got was all right, I'm here and I got hit, but then it knocked me down. And she looked over at her trainer and said, what am I supposed to do? And he said, he pointed at her, looked at her and says, think about your husband. And so she said the first time she wailed back and came across, the other athlete was still standing there. So then they came back for the second power slap. And the trainer said, no, think of your husband. And she said at that moment, everything that the depression, the rage, the whole 9 yards, when she went back, she says every single part of that rage and depression came across her hand and hit the girl to the point. Then she felt like, wow, this worked. And then she looked over like, oh my God, she's out. So she felt good because she was able to get through those emotions. But then the different emotion was, oh my God, I just knocked this girl out. So would it ever be one of those things that even though you're in the boxing realm, would slap boxing ever enter your realm of the athletic world, and you think, hey, you know what? If I have kind of a bad moment, maybe slapping somebody make it a little bit better.
Another outlet.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, because that's a good question because there's so many new sports out there. I mean, I've been asked to do bare knuckle fighting before. I don't know if I'm ready for that one yet, but yeah, I mean, I'm open to it. I love that. That's something that's helped me too with my depression is having something to work for and having a reason to get up every morning and fight for something. One of my most recent fights, I literally took it only because I was in such a bad depression that I needed training camp. I didn't need the fight. I didn't care about the fight. I needed training camp.
Was that pro fight or TCL? Was that pro fight?
Pro fight. a pro fight.
That wasn't the fight against Olivia Grillo, was it?
No. That was no. It was the Hannah Rankin fight.
Okay.
Hannah Rankin had called me to fight right before my wedding, and I was like, great. But I was in a really bad place. I was suicidal then, and I was in a bad depression, and I was like, I need training camp. I need a reason to get up every day and fight and train and be around people and not stay in bed all day and eat what I want. Like, I need that discipline. Because I didn't want to fight right before my wedding. I wanted to kind of enjoy my wedding, but it was a big opportunity. And like I said, I was like, I don't even care win or lose about this fight. If I don't have a training camp or if I don't have something to keep me regulated, like, I was going to be in a darker place. I was very suicidal at that time. So the Olivia Guerrero fight, my dad had passed, and that was my first fight before. And that was I was very, very out of it.
You were very, I called that fight. You were extremely tentative and sluggish.
Oh, I blacked out on that fight. Yeah. I was, I don't remember that fight. I don't, that was 100% me being, the wrong Logan that showed up. I wasn't in a good place with my surroundings. I'll just say that. And all congrats to Olivia. But I just didn't show up. I was just, that was the start of my like downward spiral for a while. And it kept going until honestly, kind of recently, it's been getting better. But
that's when you have to really be careful. Like, I know you follow the sport, but like, for instance, Ryan Garcia.
Yeah.
He's a talented kid. He's a good looking kid. He's a charismatic kid. But then you hear what comes out of his mouth, or you see what he's posting on social media, and right away it's, hey, this kid needs help. This kid needs help. But yet you're still going on social media. You're still saying some things that are just really off the board. Like, just, you shouldn't be talking like this. You shouldn't, if you think like this, then you've got some issues. But then where does it go to? I feel as though, because social media is such a cesspool, it's like people want to feed into that and keep baiting and baiting and baiting and just give them, throw gasoline on a friggin' fire that's about to just burn the whole friggin' house down. But a kid like that, again, everyone has a backstory, right? But you can tell by looking, at the hands, who's soft, who's hard, right? Who's been through it, so to speak, in life. And he's still relatively young. He's making millions of dollars, and maybe that's coming to his, getting to his head. Maybe he's just having fun with it. But I look at him and I see a young man that is just going down this path of utter destruction. And yet the masses want to feed into this because it's enjoyable to them. And I'm like, man, someone's got to pull this kid to the side and say, enough is enough.
Well, I think that's like, any athlete, I saw it a lot in college where these kids, these football players that had absolutely nothing go to the NFL and they have all this new stuff and they have just yes men around them. Now, I obviously don't know Ryan's situation and I don't know the people around him, so I don't want to speak on that. But I will say, for people in the public eye and especially athletes, and I've seen it firsthand with people that I knew, they just don't, the people who have a smaller group who are willing to say, no, that's not okay. Like, I think that is a lot of the problem, is there's just people that just leech off the people. It's a paycheck to them. They don't care about their well-being. And I hope that's not the case for Ryan. Cause I know he's talked about his mental health and, and being affected by it, but it's the people you surround yourself with.
Yep.
And I think, like I said, I've seen it with so many athletes coming out of college. And unfortunately, I miss the days when I was growing up and like we had MySpace and like that was it. Like it was the best. But I take breaks from social media all the time.
I
have to. When I start to feel negative, I will get off my social medias and I will not look when I feel like it's starting to take me down, which you have to sometimes.
Yeah. And now, ready? That's a horrible segue. I was about to say, hey, do me a favor, promote your Instagram.
Yeah. See, I don't even know. I think you had it up there. I don't even know what my Instagram is.
Hold on a second. Let me do the work for you.
It's L Holler 22.
There you go. Yeah. As she says, holler at your girl. Well, I
Oh
was
yeah,
gonna
you have
say,
my Twitter
hey,
up there. I don't even know my Twitter login. So
there you go. See
I
that?
have
There we go. We
Instagram
got
and
this. There
TikTok,
you
and
go.
that's
There
it.
we go. And TikTok. There we go. So we'll sprout around promote. I would say, hey,
TikTok
hopefully
is
I
the same
can.
as Instagram.
Well, I was gonna say, listen, we got to get you back on, right, with the finals and to preview the
Yeah,
finals.
we'll have
But
to.
but by my comments today, you putting me on the spot. Who knows if I'm gonna be behind the mic on Sunday? I'm just messing with you. Stop it. Hey, listen.
No, I don't want to get you in trouble. You're in a, like it's tough to find. I told this to Dewey. It's tough to find good people in the boxing industry, but boxing industry as well. So it's nice when you meet a good soul like yourself. So
I
I
appreciate it.
appreciate everything you do.
Now, listen, you're fantastic. I have the utmost respect for you guys. I love you guys
Thank
to
you.
death. I just, the group, these female fighters, and you guys got a lot of charisma. You got a lot of character, but you have a lot of heart. And I appreciate if somebody has been kicked and punched and knocked down, and you just continue to get back up. That's the only thing it's not even advice. And I say this ad nauseum to people. Stay the course.
Yeah, just
Stay the
trust the
course.
process.
That's it. Stay the course, because eventually you get through the rough patches, you get through the rough seas, you got blue skies, you got the sun, you got the water ahead, and you've got so much to look forward to. And listen, you're a hell of a fighter, but your calling might be this when it's all said and done, right?
Yeah.
Preaching, getting that message out, conveying that message. And if you want to beat people up for a living and make some money, you can do that as well, right?
No,
But
maybe I'll get behind the mic with you one day.
are you kidding me?
Let me just talk. I'd rather just talk and not get hit in the head.
Hey, go listen. You have any.
Angel,
Listen,
yeah, let's go.
no. What I'm going to say is when I make the trek down there and we're doing fights, yes, I will make a call for you to be my blow
I
by
would love
blow,
to be there.
my
I may
color
not be as
analysis.
knowledgeable as you, but I'll try to bring
Are you
any
kidding
comic
me?
relief I can.
Come on, man. I got stop. Enough. Seriously.
I'm like you though. I'm super type A that I would have all the research ready and everything
Yes.
ready to go.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Then when I get to knock out in the first round, I wasted about an hour doing a backstory on a fighter. No, listen, you've got an open invite to come on the show. You've got an open invite. We're going to make it happen. You're going to sit and you're going to call the fights for me. It's a done deal.
Come down to South Florida. It'd be fun.
Hey, listen, you're about to, I don't know, Angel, what, the 1,000th person that's already said that to me?
Come on.
Yeah.
We'll show you around. It's a lot of fun.
I'm trying to convince them. I'm in Tampa, so I'm trying to convince them, to come down this way.
We're
So
building towards it. It's a done deal. We just have to get our ducks in a row.
I know.
I live right by the Fort Lauderdale airport. I'll come pick you up.
Look, I'll tell you what. Will you and your husband bring the belt?
Yeah, we also we're big WWE fans, so we have tag team belts too for that we wore for our wedding.
Oh, get out!
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh wait, hold on. We got.
Oh yeah, we're in the wardrobe. So we came out to our wedding with these.
Oh, check that out.
That's pretty good.
That's cool.
We're big WWE fans. So
nice. Did you Did you go on one of the aisles and jump off to land on the altar? Did you?
Oh no! When we came out to our party, we came out to John Cena's walkout, and we came out with these. And I'm a Sting girl and a Stone Cold girl. Those are my favorite.
All right.
See, I tried.
Now we have our wrestling. We got our wrestling inside. I think
we'll have to do. That was my dream. My dream was to be in WWE before boxing. We can get into that in another
Angel,
podcast.
we might have our unofficial correspondent.
Yep, we do.
I think so. We're gonna have to work something out.
Signed deal.
All right.
I'm excited.
Yep.
All right, listen. Can I get a holler at your girl? Can I get one of those before I let you get out of here?
You want me to say holler at your girl?
Yeah, when I interviewed you, that was your quick sign off when we were down in Florida. I was
Did I say holler at your girl? Did I say that?
Yeah, I was like, good luck tonight. You're like, holler at your girl.
I don't even remember. That was that was.
No, it was fantastic. Listen, wish you the best of luck. We're gonna get you back on again. You and I, we're gonna keep in communication and just keep fighting, man. That's all you can do. Keep fighting. You're inspiring, and we appreciate you jumping on board for a couple moments.
Thank you for letting me talk about my story and get that out there. I appreciate that, and
Anytime.
I appreciate
you
guys.
Logan. All right, be well.
Thank you, Logan.
Thank you, guys.
Fantastic. So 1:00 straight up. I know we're up against it. We have to take a timeout. She's fantastic, man.
She is.
She's freaking fantastic.
You gotta remember that
all those girls in the league, and I don't like to keep saying all those girls. It's just I can appreciate the female fight game. And I've covered a lot of these girls when they were amateurs and then in the pro ranks, and they were so accessible, right? And they all had great stories. I mean, think about that. Think about that for a moment. You're at the depths, and in your mind, you have no other way out, right? You have no way out, and you're such despair. But then, yet, you pick yourself back up, and you go on and you produce, and that's extremely admirable and commendable. And it's so hard to do because we've all been there, man. We've all had moments in our life where we've absolutely just have been deflated, punch in the gut, devastated. And then, person comes along and says, you got to get up. You got to keep going. And a lot of times it's the person inside of here and the person inside of here that says, keep going, keep going. So
no, she was right, because she, first of all, to get somebody to share their stories, a lot of times they don't want to do it just because it's super personal to them. Yet alone, when she talked about how, there's two sides of her when she comes up to the ring, and you would think that as an athlete, that's pretty tough, because if you go in there, like if physically, like you're ready to go and get into that ring, but mentally you're not there, that makes it extremely tough. And like I said, to where I can relate, because 2017, it was going to be lights out for me, but it's life and how it evolves itself, and you try to make yourself better. That was a fantastic story to at least for her to share with everyone. And I could not imagine going into a boxing ring or an MMA fight or anything else and not mentally be there. Because you talk about putting your guard up. I mean,
it's extremely dangerous if you're not mentally in it, because you have to protect yourself at all times. I mean, and I called that fight that she fought Olivia Garillo.
Right.
And I was not aware, full transparency, that it was right after her father passed. So for her to get in the ring and then fight, and Garillo, veteran fighter from Canada, well-traveled, former champ, advanced age as a fighter, but still, had the belt and fought a lot of tough opponents. I can tell you, calling that fight, I was excited to see Logan fight. And I recall that fight. It was in Delaware. It was, I think, about 2 years ago in October in Delaware. She was very lethargic. And I had no clue until she just brought it up. I can't imagine, having to fight, right? It's tough to overcome something like that, and then to put yourself in that position. And now you're talking to combat sports where, you're trying to hit your opponent and not get hit. But she's funny, man. Like, she's got a really great sense of humor. And, I was just like teasing her where, like, hey, listen, I'll give my opinion on the air all the time. Right. I'll give my opinion, but I thought it was more pertinent because I just got a little taste of her story when they were down in Florida, because you only get minimum, let's just say, if I'm doing a stand-up shot and we're using it as B-roll prior to the fight or coming out of a break, maybe I get a minute plus. So it's hard for me to sit there and say, hey, I'm with so-and-so, and I see you've got the, fighting for, mental awareness, blah, blah. Give me your story. It's not fair for someone to try to encapsulate that story in 30 seconds and then, hey, let's go up to the ring announcer for the next fight. I wanted to really hear the story. And the fact that she was very willing and open to opening up like that, I don't take that for granted. And I hope the listening and viewing audience didn't, because that was I was taking a lot of notes, man. That was some really, really powerful stuff. Really powerful stuff.
It was, because again, there's a lot of people that just won't share it. I mean, it took me quite the minute to be able to share my stuff, but at the same time too, because you don't know, something can trigger a person when you're talking to them or something else. And the last thing that you want is for them to go down a deep hole as they're bringing it up. But not many athletes will bring it up. And she's right, because there's a lot of men. It's been known that a lot of men don't do it. I just mentioned yesterday about Junior Seau, the concussions. We didn't know what was going on with Junior Seau, right? Not a clue. We saw the stuff that was going on in his life, but we had no idea until after he passed. His family started speaking about it, and then the doctor finally revealed this is why he went down this route because of the concussion. So listen, I'm glad that she's married. I'm glad that her husband acknowledges exactly how to work with her to make sure that she's fine. The same way with her family. I'm pretty sure they're there as well, but it's always good for someone to share a story because 100%. Just like, and I know, cause I'm going to say the same things you said earlier, but the Not Bland show, same thing. When he, in a lot of times viewers won't even share something because they'll feel like they're either nobody wants to hear them or their voice shouldn't be heard. So thanks to Not Bland show for sharing your story as well. But yeah, no, she did it was a terrific job. And again, the power slap champion that we spoke to out in Vegas, it was the same way. She went to wind up and take a fake slap at friggin' Tony. I thought she was going to end up.
It was a pretty interesting the way you took us down with that question, because it's almost like an outlet for you, right? Everyone, like, this is my outlet.
Right.
Doing this, calling games, being on the radio, doing the show, doing the podcast, broadcasting, it's mine. It's my outlet. Like, it's my safe haven. As if people, you don't need to be a rocket science or be in my inner circle to kind of see it. This is my safe place, right? And everyone they can be a writer, they can sing, they can play the piano, they can write poetry, they can paint, they can build, whatever. Everyone has to have your safe place because ultimately that's where you go. Right. And I knew exactly where she was going, and I wanted to empathize and sympathize, and I didn't want to make it about me at that moment, but I knew where she was going, where you don't want people to think you're a fraud.
Correct.
That is the worst feeling in the world. And everyone jokes. You joke. The guys, when I call the fights, they joke because I'm constantly writing notes. It's just an OCD, an OCB, whatever it is, call it what you want. But the worst thing is to go on the air or do something and then have, I don't care, doctor, whatever, teacher, and then people to think, well, hopefully, if you're a doctor, they don't think you're a fraud, but I'm not there. But point being, they think, right? Do I sew it there? You don't want people to think you are a fraud. That's the word. Like, oh my God, they're going to see right through me and call my bullshit. And that's a horrible feeling, man. And I think there has to be fear. This is me. I don't know what you guys think, and I don't know what you think, Angel, but I think my opinion is, if you really want to be successful in anything you do in life, obviously you have to work at it. You have to work hard, and things might not always go your way, right? But just like with these athletes, fear is a motivator, man.
Oh, yeah.
Fear drives you, and I see it in a fight game. Right. I see it in the athletes that I interview. It's just, if you treat it as though this might be your last time out because of that fear, more times than not, mentally, you're going to put on, that great performance, and some struggle with that. Some get the anxiety, some put too much pressure and they fold under that. You got to harness that. You got to channel that. But everything she was saying, it's almost as though, like, sometimes you're looking in the mirror, or you're saying this is extremely familiar, right? What's coming out of somebody's mouth. But I think it takes a lot of courage and strength to kind of share the stories that she did. And I enjoyed it. It was a good segment.
No, it does. It does take a lot. It's the same way. I mean, first of all, I've seen you in action when you're calling the basketball games. I think that's when you're probably the most, I think, attentive / anal when it comes down to it, because of how you know exactly what you want to say, how it comes out, and then the raw form of you calling the games. It's the best ever because we're getting Q. We're getting you as a broadcaster, you as a person. That's the best part about it. Yeah. The other thing is, and you talk about fear, is the same way when you used to jump out of the military, out of an airplane. Same way, you got that fear is what kept you alive. And it's no different than putting this together, putting a network together. The fear is that something goes horrifically wrong and then you look dumb. And you're right, because the last thing you want to do is be in front of a mic, in front of a camera, and then you say something that's not completely true, and then people call you out, and the first words they hear is fraud. Forget about it.
Well, I can tell you this. You jumping out of an airplane kind of dwarfs me calling a fight behind a mic. I think there's a little more pressure with what you're doing than I'm doing. All right, 16 past the 1 o'clock hour. Good stuff with the text messages, 727-858-6650. I want to get in on the other side. I know we're up against it. We're a little behind on the break, but I definitely want to get into a couple things. I'll give you an update on the debacle that was on Sunday. Now these new reports are coming out. Touch a little bit on some NFL football. Second half of the baseball season, Angel, and for the viewers out there, gets underway manana. So we got to dive into that and a couple other topics we want to put a bow on as well. We'll take you up to 2 o'clock straight up on a Thursday edition of Middays with Q right here on Sports Radio 102.9 FM. The game, Southwest Florida's newest game in town. We are powered by Coastal Sports Network and our wonderful friends for all the breaking news in Tampa, surrounding area, weather, traffic alerts, Eye on TB. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back on the other side.
Hi, folks. This is Gerard Moynihan of Moynihan Lumber, and I would like you to know that our company has been selling Anderson windows for over 60 years. See the complete line of Anderson windows at any of our 3 locations in North Reading, Beverly, or in Plastown, New Hampshire, or at MoynihanLumber.com.
Ion Tampa Bay is the latest news, weather, and traffic for Pinellas, Pasco, Ellsboro, Hernando, and surrounding communities. Stay connected on X, Facebook, and their website, iontp.com. Ion Tampa Bay keeps you informed on breaking news as it happens. Southwest Florida's newest game in town. Sports Radio 102.9, the game powered by Ion Tampa Bay. We'll be right back.
To some people, the sound of a baby babbling doesn't mean much. But that's not necessarily true. By 6 months, they're combining vowels and consonants. By 9 months, they're trying out different kinds of sounds. And by 12 months, their babbling is beginning to take on some meaning. Especially if there's no babbling at all. Little to no babbling by 12 months or later is just one of the possible signs of autism in children. Early screening and intervention can make a lifetime of difference and unlock a world of possibilities. Take the first step at autismspeaks.org. A public service announcement brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
The following is made possible by Dad.
Why was the basketball court all wet? Because the players kept dribbling all over it.
The dad joke. Corny, grown-worthy, but also one of the simplest ways to share a moment with your kids.
Why do you have to be careful when it's raining cats and dogs? Because you might step in a poodle.
And kids that spend more time with their dads grow up to be smarter, more successful.
Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding.
And, with any luck, funnier adults.
Why didn't the skeleton go to the dance? Because he didn't have anybody to go with.
Dad jokes rule. So take a moment to make a moment and give your kid a laugh. It's as easy as going to fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
That's really funny.
Call or text the show at 727-858-6650. Now, back to Q.
Do 120. Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! Do we have to refresh? Do we have to refresh? Oh man! Hold on, I'm refreshing.
And there he goes. See, it was good, but that's okay. He'll be back in about 15 seconds. Thank you guys very much for tuning in here. The Coastal Sports Network on Sports Radio 102.9 FM The Game. Don't forget, download the app, sr1029thegame.com, and he's back. Just like that in a flash.
Quinones here. Let me tell you about my good friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee. I didn't know I had a refresh there. I guess I should have done it during the break.
That's okay.
127-278-58-6650. I saw my guy down in Florida,
This was earlier. I want to make sure I got Jovan.
Let me get Jovan in there. Anybody that doesn't like WNBA, then you don't like hoops. It's good and exciting hoops more than the NBA. Jovan's going to come on tomorrow, by the way.
Sweet.
Yeah, definitely. What was I going to say? Man, I don't often I was going to say my train of thought. So here's with our guy Andy Slater, famous down in your neck of the woods for Slater Scoops. Let me read this to you. Several weeks before Copa America final, Miami-Dade Police Director Stephanie Daniels made leadership changes, which included personnel in charge of security planning at Hard Rock Stadium.
Whoopsies.
55 people were ejected. 27 arrests were made.
And again, why would you do that when you know the event's coming around? Someone should have planned better.
Yep.
Just like another situation that's going on in the world, and someone else decided to show up. And it's like, you do realize that was a major catastrophe fail on that person's behalf. And then you show up at a major event. Like, why? Why would you even do that?
Yeah. Well, I think what happens now is I don't foresee I don't want to say I don't foresee another disaster like this, but I don't. Let me talk something positive for a minute, even though I don't know if this is positive. It might rankle the Sixers fan. Have you been following the exhibition for USA basketball, for Team USA?
Where they're teaming up Embiid and LeBron and Steph?
Well, basically, Anthony Davis has been outplaying Joel Embiid.
Right.
And the conversation now is Anthony Davis should start over Embiid. And Embiid was probably the single biggest, I guess you can say, roster building story, right, leading up. But he hasn't played well. I think France wanted him badly, so he was asking for citizenship so he can play for them, which leaked back in April. So he chose to play for Team USA. And then if you remember the guy that was drafted from France by the Knicks, who was a bust, Frederick Weiss, was so pissed off that he basically came out and said Embiid should be banned from entering the country for the Olympics. So there's a little bad blood there. But with all that being said, Anthony Davis has outperformed Embiid. And I'm wondering, I mean, sometimes when you put and assemble these rosters together,
right,
a lot of it, well, case in point, a lot of it has to do with politics and the name on the back of the jersey, as opposed to, in this case, maybe younger, fresher legs. I think it's going to cause a little bit of a rankle if Davis starts to get more burn and he starts over Embiid. Now, listen, Team USA, they should, and I'll pull up the odds in a second. I mean, I said this is not would they win 105-79 against Serbia the other day? And they play really good defense. I give them that. But I think they're having a hard time finding some chemistry. And I guess the last thing you want to have to deal with is this team getting bounced, right? I mean, it would just be a horrible, horrible look. Now they're minus 500, and that kind of tells you that they're prohibited favorite right now in the Olympics. Canada is at plus 1,100. France is at plus 1,400. And by the way, if you're feeling a little feisty and you want to put some coin in the pocket, you got South Sudan. I don't believe you can name their roster at plus 30,000. And you also have Puerto Rico at plus 30,000. So if you know anything about the South Sudan roster and you got some odds and you want to, put some coin, some shekels in the pocket, plus 30,000. But point being, if USA loses, if they get bounced, if they don't win a gold, it's another friggin' disaster.
Yeah. It is. And if Anthony Davis is playing better than Joel Embiid, again, I'm not the coach, but if he's playing better than Embiid, not a Lakers fan, but regardless, you're representing USA. So if he's playing better, hey, listen, no harm, no foul. That's the way it is. I mean, we've seen Joel Embiid on good days with the Sixers. On bad days, we've seen playoff Embiid. We've seen regular season Embiid. So I guess what they're seeing over there now is playoff Embiid.
Do you think Embiid has that dog in him Do you think Joel Embiid has that killer instinct? Now, when I say dog, I'm not talking about the DAWG is the nasty dog on the porch. I'm doing whatever the hell needs to be done to win. The DOG dog is more or less the laps, the lazy, no fight in them.
Remember the dog that showed up against the Eagles in San Fran?
The dog that showed up against the Eagles in San Fran.
Yeah, remember you said that the 49ers took the Eagles for a dog walk?
Oh. When San Fran basically broke the Eagles because the Eagles showed up they were the DOG that day. Yes, correct. And against Tampa, your Bucks. Yep,
Yeah.
okay.
But whoa, slow down.
You're in Tampa Bay, so therefore you're
All right.
Bucks. I don't know why you
when
take
people be like, oh my God, he defected. No.
Why do you take offense to it? I'm just saying you are based out of TV in Tampa Bay.
I like
You're
to
Bucks.
Hey, listen, I mentioned it. I even mentioned yesterday. How is it possible, Q? I'm here in Tampa. I swear I don't get it.
Yeah. Talk to me.
How do these fans not a jersey, nothing. The only time you ever, honest to goodness, the only time you ever see anything Bucks related. So next month, right around the middle of August, you walk into Walmart, you'll see Bucks gear, right? As far as like Bud Light, like the drinking Doritos aspect of it. The jerseys you barely even see at all inside the freaking stores, and yet alone, like it's, in Philly, Jersey, Giants, you guys know it. It's the same way, right? Yankees, Giants. So now, even if we know like the Giants had an abysmal season, fans still wear the gear. When you can go down, they can come down here to Tampa, right, to watch spring training. You'll find Giants fans because they wear their Giants jerseys to represent the Giants here at a baseball venue.
You're saying the Tampa Bay fan sucks. I'll say it are you saying the Tampa Bay football fan is a display / front running fan? And maybe, if I lived, when the weather's just too gorgeous, like I got to be honest, and you're going to hold me accountable. I'm going to get hammered for saying this. Whether I'm on that side or in Miami, if it's 85 degrees on a Sunday and the Giants are 1-6, I'll be damned if I'm watching the Giants. Hammer me right now. I'm going to the friggin' beach. I don't care. Hammer me right now. The weather's too gorgeous. So is it just, you have a fan base, but it's not a fanatical fan base? Because the other thing, Angel, how many colleges are down in Florida?
Oh, a ton. And that's what it is down here. It's because of the college atmosphere. That's truthfully is the reason why it is what it is. USF, for example, you probably will see 2 more jerseys down here for USF than you will for Tampa. And it's huge. USF, UCF in the area, Gators, Canes. I mean, you name it, it's down here. My thing, and I guess maybe because of coming back from the Northeast area where we were
you can't compare it though.
No,
that's
you
an
can't.
unfair comparison.
Correct. You can't. But I'm going to take it. I'll take my camera. If we end up going down over to the Riverwalk this weekend, I'll take my camera. I know my wife is listening. She's probably going to go bananas. I will literally walk 2 miles down the Riverwalk, and then we are close now to camp. Not one piece of Bucks merchandise will you see. The Lightning you will see a lot more of. And if there was a basketball team here, matter of fact, you'll probably see more of the Tampa Bay Sun Football Club gear than you probably would of the Bucks gear. I just don't understand how you have a team here in your backyard.
You can't fault them for that. You can't fault it's displaced fans. Florida has a lot of East Coast, a lot of New Yorkers flock down there. Yankees, Giants, Jets, Eagles, Cowboys, Washington. There's so many teams to choose from. I mean, again, if you're the ardent a fan, you sprout out a couple kids and you want to make them, fan of X, Y, and Z, you start them off young, there you go. But I just think there are just markets where I don't want to say it's not a legit fan base because that's not fair. You're basically, you can't speak for an entire fan base, but Jacksonville Miami fans, I mean, everyone hammers like Miami Heat, but like the Dolphins have a good fan base and maybe people want every arena to be sold out. But again, it's different if it's 40-degree weather in New York and Philly, and you're going to a game in October, November, a basketball game, seeing the Knicks or the Sixers. And if it's 85 degrees in Miami and you don't want to go, was it American Airlines, whatever the arena is now, you don't want to go to the arena to watch a game. I don't know, man. I'm at the point where, yeah, if you root for the team, you root for the team. I really don't care. I mean, because for me, I can't compare because, New York fan, it's like, these are your teams no matter where you go, right? I mean, I've known people that have kind of flip-flop and switch, and then all of a sudden you move into a different area and you want to be that fan and this fan and that fan. It's a displaced market. That's all it is. You can't compare Florida when it comes to their pro teams and their fan base to, say, Chicago, DC, Philadelphia, New York. It's not a fair fight.
No,
it's a
I
knockout in the first round.
Okay, yeah, I get that too, but then the now, of course, I'm going to take my licks too because obviously the Eagles have not showed up here in Tampa and gotten their heads smashed in by the Bucks. But at the same time, the funny part is that they will fill up Raymond James Stadium, and that's what I mean. Like if there isn't, even if you go to Atlantic City, for example. Now let's take the Jersey Shore. South Jersey, we'll take it there, right? And you'll still get people to wear their stuff out there. Now, hold on. I don't expect for people.
I can hit it with a rock. You're going to tell me my business, but go ahead.
But no, it's the same way. Like, obviously, if we're at the beach, yes, I don't expect people to bust out of Jersey because it's already freaking hot. And now, and to also get back to your point as well, when the Lightning were in the playoffs, this is when I first moved down here. Now, I had the mentality of, it's freaking 92 degrees and you're wearing a sweater that's heavier than you right now. But the fandom with the Lightning is stronger than what it is, for example, with the Bucks. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to wear the jersey. You can wear an old t-shirt. I'm not saying you have to, but at least like something to represent.
But maybe it wasn't like that 15, 20 years ago. Maybe it wasn't like that when the Bucks were dominating.
Yeah, good point.
Right. I mean, it changes, right? I mean, 84, 85 Miami Dolphins with Marino in the heyday. Now there's a little more buzz. I mean, Jacksonville, they had their run early with Coughlin. Now they think they might have it going forward with Trevor Lawrence and alike. And I just think it's different in the markets that we grew up in. Not that I would, but if I were to flip on another outlet and hear what they're talking about down in your neck of the woods, I would venture to guess it's college football right now. They're not talking Miami Marlins.
Mm-mm.
They're not talking Tampa Bay Rays. Maybe they're mentioning a little bit Jacksonville, Miami, and Tampa in the NFL, but I bet you the bulk is going to be top 25 college football. It's going to be Florida. It's going to be Florida State. It's going to be Miami. It's going to be SEC. It's going to be Big Ten. It's going to be ACC. They're talking top 25.
Right.
But or high school, right? Which, as we know, it's the high school sports, the high school athletics. There are certain markets. When I was in Ohio, high school football ruled in Ohio. Same thing in Delaware, to some extent Jersey. You know how it is out in Texas, Friday Night Lights. We know how it is in Florida and your neck of the woods. National Signing Day. It's a big day. When the kids, or talking about some of these high schools in these different counties and whatnot. It's huge. I mean, I know like Nick Costco does a really good job with On3 Sports and Rutgers Wrestling. He's called high school football for years. I mean, I called high school football for years in this area, and it was on a Comcast channel. It was on Quinn Broadcasting TV2, QBC, not to be confused with QVC, which was the home shopping network back in the day. But they would do a whole production. They had a production truck. We would do pre-post. We would do halftime stats, post-game, Friday Night Football in Cumberland County. So if you go down like the short points, you just keep going down like you're going to Delaware, Salem, Millville, Mike Trout, Violin, Isaiah Pacheco, Bridgeton, Bubba Harris. So it was huge. Thanksgiving, one of the longest running rivalries in the entire country in high school football is right pretty much not in my backyard, but yes, in my backyard. It's Millville Vineland. They've been, I think, 115 times they've met. It's one of the longest storied rivalries. And, a lot of times now, the way they do the state playoffs, then there's not a lot of juice when it comes to the Thanksgiving Day game. Not a lot to play for after the fact if you're already bounced. So, but point being, in different states, college and high school, like this area, because it is still Philly centric, New York centric, it is all about the pros. I'm sorry, no one's talking Stockton.
Right.
We're talking maybe Rutgers here and there. And when Costco comes on, and I like to joke with him because he's a Rutgers guy. So I can't really get on the fan bases. I just think it's kind of like, the market, right? But then there are some areas where they have zero professional presence. I mean, that would suck. That would suck. The one thing I did not like about Ohio, well, there were many things I didn't like about Ohio. And as much as I give a shout out to cold beer and cheeseburgers, right?
Right.
I think we called it CBCB's, whatever, which was a little place in Akron where I would go and have my cup of coffee before my shift. Great people up there. It was all college, man. And I even take it a step further just to show you that I recall. So the station was, and you might look it up now. I think it's still in existence. It's 1290 WHIO. I remember the sports director at the time was younger than me. And he played college football. I mean, I thought he was a jerk off. I'm just being honest, full transparency. I thought he was a blockhead. I thought he was a jerk off. That's just me. So, hence, I only lasted up there a couple months. But that being said, Connecticut was just coming off, I believe, a national championship. So let me just think it was 1999. I think it was 1999.
2000, party's over.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they were a really good team. They were ranked. Okay, let's just say they were ranked or they had a great run. And Dayton, the Dayton Flyers, beat them. They upset them. So the kid at the time said, "Hey, I know you're a sports guy. You want to come on the air with us?" And I was like, "Yeah, all right." So it was a Dayton-centric show, right?
Right.
Hoo-ha-ha, Dr., Joe Swanson, don't forget the medical doctor of the Dayton Flyers in Akron, sponsoring Dayton Flyers hoops, whatever. Okay, that was my first red flag. So they're like, and they kept butchering my name. They didn't like the way I looked, the way I talked, whatever. And they're like, our guy from Jersey, does the board operating, he works on the Rich Hopkins show. Rich Quinones is joining us for a couple moments.
Oh, Jesus.
I'm like, all right, yeah, whatever. And he's like, "Yeah, you're a sports guy. Want to give you a little play, little air shot. What'd you think?" And I said, "Hey, great win for Dayton." Quote, "Horrible friggin' loss for UConn."
Oh, jeez.
And I think when I went on to say they had no business losing to Dayton. Well, when I said that, my segment lasted, maybe 2 minutes, if that. I mean, and I was just trying to say, listen, great for Dayton, puts them on the map. And I said, but you got to think of it like this. You got a top 25 team in UConn, fresh off whatever, regional run, Final Four, whatever the hell it was. And then you go out and you lose. And I think they might have lost in UConn. I'm not sure, but you go out and lose. That's a horrible look, to a smaller school in Dayton. The next day, this motherfucker calls me into his office, mind you, right? Younger than me, calls me into his office and he's like, "Hey man, listen, that's not how we work up here." I said, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "Bad loss for UConn? No, it's a great win for Dayton." I was like, "That's what I said. Like, were you not on the microphone with me?" He's like, "Yeah, we just don't do that up here." And I was like, "Yeah, I don't get where you're coming from." And he looks at me and he's like, "Listen, We don't do it like that up here. And I said, you know what? New York guy, Jersey guy. Translation is I have to kiss Dayton's ass. I have to kiss your ass. So the level of my ass kicking equates to how much airtime I got. And he's like, pretty much. And I basically told him in so many words, fuck off. And I remember about 3 months later, I made my trek back to Jersey. I mean, I was up there for maybe like a half a year, but it goes to show you the small market level when you're overrun by college football. I went through the same stuff a lot in Delaware State. I can go on and on with this stuff. It's amazing the smaller markets, how they want to cram, say like University of Delaware down your throat, and they forget about a MEAC school, right?
Yep.
In Delaware State, pretty much dominated African Americans, black college, smaller university, smaller stadiums, smaller amount of boosters and revenue coming in. And when Delaware State would play Delaware, the argument years ago was that Delaware would allot X amount of tickets to Delaware State, and it was never fair because they would only get a handful. But yet they were like, well, we're playing in UD Stadium, which was a monster, gorgeous stadium. So we're going to ice you out. And I remember Jeff Pearlman, great writer, worked for ESPN years ago, still on X doing his thing, very outspoken, opinionated, especially when it comes to sports and politics. He came on my air, and it was is UD making this about race? And I'll never forget, I had and you might have to fact check me on this, I had the governor's office tuning in, and I basically was like, something's not right here. Why are they getting 10,000 tickets and Delaware State's only getting 1,000? I'm using that as an example. I was like, it just doesn't make sense. Not playing the race card, but what's going on here, where the money's coming in? Why is this not being played in Delaware State? Why are we not alternating stadiums? And I'll never forget, the governor of Delaware called in my station, and you might have to fact check me on this. I believe at the time it was Jack Markell.
That sounds right.
Jack Markell. And he's a Newark guy. And I think, I don't even know. I mean, you're the political guy, man. You know that like the back of your hand. I think Biden nominated him to like an ambassador of Italy. I think it was confirmed by the Senate. Like, obviously, I mean, nice enough guy, but I went at him. And then, of course, after that, hey, go see the program director. So point being is, different markets, they want you to sprout your fandom in different ways.
Right.
And they want you to push certain narratives, push certain agendas. And if you're in a market, like I think what we're doing, because we bleed it over, right? Pete's a Boston guy, you're a Philly guy, I'm a New York guy. We kind of collect all the top, 2-3 markets when it comes to media, the other guys that we're bringing on board. And now you got that displaced fan group that will listen in. But yeah, going back to your original point, without kind of going around the block here and there, and you kind of wound me up and got me started with the fan bases. It really depends on the state you're in. It really depends on if professional sports is dominated, if it's high school, if it's college. And then when you add to the fact that if you have local media outlets out there, they want you to push a certain narrative
right
with that. So I know we kind of went overboard. I know we're up against it. We got 15 to play with. We'll take our final timeout. We'll get in a little baseball as well on the other side. 1:45. Keep it locked into a Thursday edition Middays with Q. I've only had 3 cups of fresh roasted coffee. 727-858-6655.
I was just thinking about that. I wanted a freaking cup of coffee myself.
Yeah, along with mi hermano Angel Martinez behind the glass producing show. 15 to play with. We'll take you up to 2.
Hi, folks. This is Gerard Moynihan of Moynihan Lumber, and I would like you to know that our company has been selling Andersen windows for over 60 years. See the complete line of Andersen windows at any of our 3 locations in North Reading, Beverly, or in Plastown, New Hampshire, or at MoynihanLumber.com.
Not completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. Even though all these years have passed, I still had that longing to have my diploma.
At age 30, Carissa finished her high school diploma.
If you're even considering getting your high school diploma, you can do it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Don't forget to get social with us. Follow Q at Rich Q on Q. And now, back to Q.
Yeah, 727-858-6665. I hope, by the way, 2 hours have just gone by. Got to remind everyone to start your morning off right. Pete Shepard Show, 7 to 10. And I don't know if, Angel, you mentioned this. I'm sure you mentioned this on your show, but that's a pretty nice get. Pete's going to have Chris Landry joining him. Now, will that be weekly during the NFL or college football, NFL/football season?
See, so it's going to start with college and yes, and add also to the element of the NFL season. So, yep, that's coming up next month. That is fantastic here for Coastal Sports Network. Huge, huge. And then, of course, the addition of Darius Rice, former Miami Heat, former Miami Hurricane, former NBA athlete, here as well to the network, which is outstanding.
Are we going to sprinkle Darius throughout the shows? Is he doing his own show? I mean, I didn't get the text. I didn't get the alert. I signed up for the app. I had to pay for it. No, I'm joking. I wasn't made aware. That's fantastic. That's great.
See, no, it's gonna be it's gonna be really good. Yeah, and he's gonna be. I have to put the timeline together because he does do something else throughout the day. So I'm trying to work it in where it's going to make the most amount of sense. But yes, he's going to be sprinkled throughout.
You know, I really want to, and I'm totally putting everyone on the spot by this right now. You know what? We'll talk off air because I was inspired earlier today, so I have an idea or two that I think. And by the way, we are working as we speak with a couple other shows that we're hoping to get on board as well. Marshall Tyne's been just crushing it with his pod. Jonathan Marshall and his brother are doing a really fantastic job. And I call it Talking Hoops last night, which is always an entertaining show. I know we keep adding on. And as I like to make Angel laugh, we see you.
And that we do.
We see you guys watching us.
Copy-paste.
Hey, listen, I mean, at this point, it is funny because I'll be careful how I say this, even though when I say I'll be careful how I say this, I never really am. It's not easy trying to put content together.
Nope.
It's not. Everyone thinks, hey, just get on the Zoom, get on the YouTube, get the mic, and here you go, right? It's very hard to do. And to have programming grid that we have, billing traffic, the commercial spots to go on there right now. You click on, you got, boom, you click on, what do we got? We got Middays with Q, right? It's popping up. You got the video. Ooh, look at this. How about this little caveat? I just see this up on the, I don't know if maybe I'm getting cut out of the loop. I think that might be it. Maybe my equity in the company is shrinking, but I just flipped on SR 1029 and I love it. In the dynamic lead on the website video component, here we are running through live. Fantastic. Look at the incredible shrinking Hermano behind the scenes.
Yes.
That's fantastic. That is a phenomenal look. But I say all this, I say all that to say this. It's a collaborative effort. We got some really good talent, really good host. Everyone is buying in. Everyone's on board. And we're just trying to give you guys a little bit, especially in the Florida market, right? Because a lot of stations, they'll do their national stuff. They'll mix in a little local here and there. But you're really getting, right now as it stands, 7 hours to start the day of live local programming, right? Because we're touching on what's going on in the community. We're touching on what's going on in Florida. And then obviously, because you got the Boston, you got the Philly, you got the New York, we're giving you I guess you can say the insight from our vantage point with those cities and those teams respectively. And it's very unique. It's extremely unique. And I think people are enjoying what we're doing. We're growing it organically. I'm not trying to make this a paid testimonial or public service announcement, but I think when you have different shows and a variety of different shows and hosts and opinions and talent and different viewpoints, and we have free reign to come on and express ourselves, that's extremely unique. And it's something that I certainly don't take lightly. I am a little annoyed, though. I was not made aware of this video because you know me. I love FaceTime. I love seeing myself. And I love the fact that now I'm on video on the website.
It is. It's been up there. See, this, listen.
Yeah. Behind the scenes, the little man is working.
It's been up there. That's the whole entire thing. You talk about bringing up great content. It's even harder when you're CEOing, executive producing, when you're putting this stuff together, making sure that we have a good virtual studio, not only that, to have a professional, dedicated digital sports station to continuously add, commercials, bumpers, all kinds of stuff, create them from scratch. Then you also switch into the host seat, and now you have to be your own producer and host, which gives you even zero limit of time to be able to run off to the bathroom or do something else, and then come on with you for the midday show. When people think it's simple, and it's been a drive now for damn near 5 years. It's not the easiest thing in the world to copy paste. It's the location, it's the time, it's to put in everything to create phone lines and text lines and other stuff. I'm just telling you that is not the easiest thing in the freaking world. It's dedicated. Yeah. The grind starts at 5 a.m. and half the time, because my hermano's still texting me at 9:30 at nighttime, it doesn't stop. My own wife, I call the producer here all the time over at Studio B. She'll ask me around, like 9:40ish, 9:50. Hey, are you done yet? Like, no, I'm putting out the last things to put out the audio to send out. So when people think it's easy, or even like today, for example, I had to cut my own self short at 11 o'clock, was to make sure that things get done in a timely manner. So it's not easy.
No.
It's not easy, but you want to go out there and do your thing. Have at it, Hoss.
No, listen, I mean,
just saying.
You're a piece of work. Tomorrow, Jovan Alford is going to join. By the way, I'm also, just to kind of give you an idea, I'm trying to get approval on a couple things. I'm working on a couple of former NFL players. Some of them now are coaching in the college ranks for them to come on during the NFL season. We are going to have probably a 2 to 3 segment, more or less a back your play edition of Middays with Q, with the gambling element as well for college football and also the NFL season. So I'm working on a couple handicappers for that as well. And we got a lot of stuff cooking, so we're having a lot of fun with it. Second half of the baseball season underway. Mañana. So what I'll do is actually give you the plays tomorrow with a clean slate. Looking some futures, if you will. Newest edition, by the way, of BYP is up on Sports Radio 102.9 FM, the game, Southwest Florida's newest game in town, part of Coastal Sports Network. Also on my YouTube channel, Rich Q on Q. Lloyd and I actually crammed in the NFC East. We were looking at the win totals and the numbers, and it's about a 20, 25-minute pod, so definitely check it out. Subscribe as well. Spotify, Amazon Music, and of course, download our app, Sports Radio 102.9 FM, the game. But it's interesting because I'll talk more about this tomorrow. I know we're closing it out. I believe the NFC East is going to be the most compelling division in football because the 3 head coaches that I've been talking about ad nauseum are all on the hot seat.
Yep.
As we know for a fact that Mike McCarthy's on the hot seat. I think if we're saying lukewarm, maybe hot, Brian Daboll. But contrary to popular belief and what others have said and are saying, I believe behind closed doors, the Philadelphia Eagles are watching closely how Nick Sirianni conducts himself this season, how he plays well with others, i.e. the coordinators, and if he can inspire Jalen Hurts. And if this team plays well, we're not going to talk about it, right? We're not going to talk about the negative of it. Well, we're always going to pinpoint a negative here and there. But man, if they're 1-4, 1-5, and I can come on the air, we can crank up throw the match. I make no secret my disdain. I just don't. He might be the nicest guy in the world, but I look at him and I just can't stand him. I just think he's a friggin' clown, Sirianni. So yes, I go on the record, by saying if they're 1-4 or 1-5, and I can just ready, just keep throwing. It's going to be fun to watch. Now, if they're 5-1 and Saquon runs for $170 against the Giants, then I'm probably going to have some serious egg on my face come that Monday.
Yeah, I would agree, because I think what he would hear come at 1-4.
Get nothing.
Nothing.
You lose. Good day, sir.
Nothing. That's a great movie, by the way.
Sure is.
Unbelievable.
Sure is. No, I would agree, because again, Nick Sirianni, he knows he's on a hot seat with the fans. Are you kidding me? He doesn't have to worry about management, because Jeffrey Lurie's going to put his ear to the ground out there in Philly and be like,
You think so? You really think so?
Yep. Good. Remember when Chip Kelly came in, and
that's a different animal.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because you got to, listen, you have Dougie P, who has won the only Super Bowl championship in Philadelphia, and the next year he's freaking gone. Why? Because they wanted him to be the yes man. How do you tell somebody that
two years? Didn't they made the playoffs the following year? They lost to the Saints. So but to your point, shelf life. Your point, he won something. Sirianni got them to the Super Bowl, and then they didn't show up against your Tampa Bay Bucks.
Yes, and that's why I say they're not mine, because the Eagles are yet to come down here and actually do something with the Bucks. Number one, but no, you can't. He's on a hot seat. Period. He that's the way he ended the season. That's the way he's starting the season. It's going to be on the hot seat. Let me just say, if your starting O-line is not together, one simple session in the preseason, the hot seat goes up even higher, because the last two seasons, listen, man up, period, athletes. You are getting paid handsomely to play the preseason. You are getting paid handsomely to step out. I don't care if it's the NovaCare Center or Lincoln Financial Field. Enough with this nonsense. Like, I don't want my right ankle to be tweaked during the preseason, because what we see last year, we got super lucky with the run that we did. The season before, not so much. So, and even though he did have a good one, play at least a series together where we don't have to make the adjustments week 1 into week 2 into week 3.
I don't think you're asking a lot with that. By the way, they opened Green Bay, Atlanta, New Orleans, and then they're on the road against your Tampa Bay. Tomorrow, Jovan Alford on, we'll talk a little WNBA with him, USA Hoops. I want to get his thoughts on Bronny. By the way, I am trying to book my guy, Lenny Cook, that apparently said LeBron James is a dog, meaning the DOG dog. Now, Lenny Cook and LeBron were 1 and 2 back in the day when it came to, your best high school players in the country, right? And Lenny Cook was a phenomenal. I mean, his story, we'll get him to share it on the show. Just never panned out in the pros. I mean, just flamed out in the NBA. But they were 1 and 2. Think about that, right? All of a sudden, you're better than this kid, but this kid goes on and he has the LeBron James career. Well, in this case, it was LeBron James. So we'll talk some more hoops. Tomorrow, as I mentioned, MLB. I want to continue this NFL talk. I want to get into these questions. I'll throw them out there for you guys as well. I have about 10 questions leading up to the season that we want to dive into and get your thoughts. But I've got to start wrapping it up on a Thursday edition of Middays with Q right here on Sports Radio 102.9 FM. The Game, as I mentioned, don't forget, start your week off right. Pete Shepard from 7 to 10. Pete Shepard Show. Great get with Landry coming on during the football season. Martinez and Company with my guy, Angel Martinez, 10 to 12. And myself, Middays with Q, 12 to 2. Really greatly appreciate Logan Holler for jumping on board for a couple moments and sharing her story. We'll get that up later on in the day, and it's already on demand as well on SR 102.9. We'll get it up on the YouTube channels. Next week, a lot more boxing. I will preview TCL tomorrow. I will preview some of the fights that are coming up. I will say this, too, as we close, and I'll leave this. I'll throw this out there as a teaser for tomorrow, but we're at right now where influencers, I guess the question is, should we take them serious or not when it comes to sports? And we'll dive into that on tomorrow's show. Jovan Alford will join us for the incredible Shrinking Hermano, Angel Martinez, the man behind the glass who keeps us on the air and looking prim and proper. I'm Rich Quinones. Hope you enjoyed a Thursday edition of Middays with Q. As always, don't forget to download the app, Sports Radio 102.9 FM, The Game, Southwest Florida's newest game in town. Log on to SR1029thegame.com. You see it right there in the right-hand corner, on my screen at least, depending upon if you guys are having a little hot toddy. It might be on the left. Who knows? Follow us, CSN Florida on X. Follow Angel, follow Pete, follow myself, Lloyd, Talking Hoops. Kiki. We might have to get an IG for, I might have to get an IG for Kiki. Who knows? We might have to get her an X account. But with that being said, that's walk time. This dog knows. It's 2:00. Get me the hell out of here. We will talk to you tomorrow. As always, be safe, be sound. Hasta luego, buen dia. Have a good day. She knows. Talk to you then.